started with this week's mini masterclass, which is all about our bedtime routine. And this is actually really helpful, a bedtime routine for getting the best possible sleep if we can have a great bedtime routine for your child. Obviously, a bedtime routine is going to look really different if you have a newborn or if you have a 5-year-old. They're going to be vastly different. And so we're going to start with that newborn, and then we'll go through as your child gets a little bit older, how we need to tweak and change that bedtime routine to not only work for your child's age, but looking at their personality as well, seeing how we can get the best possible sleep and ease of falling asleep. That would be great with our bedtime routine. So let's start with newborn. So honestly, you don't need to really have a nighttime routine with a newborn. You most certainly can, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. Everything is just sleep for a newborn. Sleep is sleep. There's no nighttime sleep. There's no daytime sleep. It's just sleep that your child is getting. And they are going to sleep. Then they will wake up for a bit and they'll need a feed and a diaper change, and then they're going to be back asleep. And so you don't need to worry a huge amount about having a nighttime routine. Lots of people will begin to introduce one, so maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks, somewhere around there. So you're kind of just survival. Honestly, I think the first 12 weeks are just all survival with a newborn. But yeah, the first 6 weeks at least are just all sort of like survival, getting to know each other, recovering from birth and establishing feeding, finding your feet, all of that, not worrying too much about a nighttime routine. And then when you want to start introducing a nighttime routine, you can do so. I suggest doing, if you've not already got one in place, at around 12 weeks of age, maybe a little bit before if you want to. And this nighttime routine is probably going to vary in the time that you get started with a newborn. You just want short, just even 10 minutes is great for that first routine. So your child's getting a little bit older and they're getting beyond that 12 weeks, and you can lengthen it out a bit. So what is that nighttime routine going to look like for a newborn? It could just look like a bath, maybe. Massage, I would say, is a really good thing to do with a newborn, because if you start introducing a massage with a newborn, you can continue to do it. When you see the most benefit from your child being massaged as a benefit with ease of them falling asleep and actually getting longer stretches of sleep is when they get to about 9 months old. But trying to introduce a massage with a 9-month-old is really hard to do because they're very wiggly. But if it's just already part of your routine, then you're just carrying on. So with a newborn, I would have a massage. You can make each of these steps longer or shorter depending on how tired your child seems. If they don't seem very tired, you can have a longer massage. If they seem really tired, you could just have a quick chest rub, leg rub as they are then getting into pajamas, and then you're moving on. You could then have, if you wanted to, have a book or a little bit of playtime, and then with falling asleep, however that look, probably going to look like a feed, especially with a newborn, and that is all okay. You can make that routine shorter or longer as you need to. And before 12 weeks, it really doesn't matter if you miss steps out. It's all okay. It really is. As sleep develops and we get past that 12-week mark, we now have nighttime sleep managed by one area of the brain, daytime sleep managed by another. And until kind of nighttime kicks in, everything is a nap. So your nighttime might still be a little bit later than we'd necessarily like, meaning that your child gets that longer stretch of sleep as they a little bit later than we'd like. Maybe we'd like a 7 o'clock, but it may be more like a 9 or 10 o'clock at around 12 weeks, and that's normal. I wouldn't worry too much about that. But you want to now begin to think about lengthening out your nighttime routine a little bit. Up to about 30 minutes is fine. And you want this routine to be really consistent. Now, from now on, you want your routine to be consistent, where you're doing the same thing in the same place, in the same order, whenever you're at home. And the reason that you want to do this is that it is predictable, and that predictability is relaxing to your child because they know exactly what's going to be coming next. You're not sort of surprising them with something new. They know what's coming next. Another benefit of having this consistency and this predictability is that your child's brain knows that they are going to be falling asleep. Because when we do this, followed by this, followed by this, it knows that sleep's coming. And so it's already getting started falling asleep, getting ready for that, which can then make actually falling asleep at the end of that routine much easier to do if the brain's already kind of working on it. So about a 30-minute routine from about 12 weeks is really, really great. Again, you can lengthen out each step or shorten it down as you need to. As you get consistent with this routine, if your child's tired because they had a long time between their last nap and this one, or they didn't nap great, or for whatever reason, they seem to be tired. When you get started with that routine, they may just suddenly seem to be falling apart tired because you've got that consistency and they know exactly what's happening. You're still going to want to do every step, but you just make it shorter. So if you have a bath followed by a massage, followed by into your sleep sack, and then read a book, sing a song, and then work on falling asleep, then you're going to still want to do all of those steps, but just much shorter. So short massage rather than, obviously you're going to get into PJs. Rather than sit and read 2 books, you're going to read 3 pages of a book and then you're done. And then rather than singing 3 songs, you're going to sing a really short song and then you're going to work on falling asleep. So you can make that routine much shorter, but it was consistent. Each step was the same, but you just varied that length, and that's fine. The consistency is there. You didn't rush through your routine. It's really helpful to help your child then fall asleep. So you want to be keeping this consistency, as I mentioned, forevermore. About 30 minutes at around 12 weeks is really, really good. As your child gets a little bit older, it's getting more sort of like 5 months, you can lengthen your routine out a little bit. Anywhere between 30 and 45 minutes is perfect for a nighttime routine. And keeping it around that forevermore. And this is from starting to get ready for bed until working on falling asleep. It's not until asleep, it's until working on falling asleep. Whether your child does that independently or you help them, then that's at the end of that routine, the end of the 30, 45 minutes. That is going to be then when sleep starts, because that's when we're starting with the sleep part. Even if it's taking your child time to fall asleep, that's all okay. Not a problem. Don't worry about that. It should take us all between 10 and 20 minutes to fall asleep. So it should take a bit of time to fall asleep, but you're finishing up however your child falls asleep, feeding, rocking, bouncing, doing it themselves, whatever it looked like at the end of that routine. Now, if you have a bath as part of your nighttime routine, you want to make sure that your child can relax after the bath. There are some kiddos out there who adore bath time but struggle to unwind after it. Now, if that is your child, a bath is probably not a great thing to have as part of your nighttime routine because they can't relax. They really struggle to fall asleep as you go through that routine. So don't have the bath if your child really struggles. You may not need to give your child a bath every single night, and that's completely fine. You don't need to. If you have your bath some nights, that'll be the start of your routine. Then whatever happens after, massage, PJs, diaper, whatever that is after, that will be the first step the night that you don't have the bath. So you'll have bath night, you'll have bath, massage, PJs, sleep sack, books, songs, bed, and then the other nights when you don't have the bath, it's massage, PJs, diaper, sleep sack, book, songs, bed. So everything else, you've got the long time after what is your bath, plenty of time to relax. So don't feel you have to have the bath every night. You can still keep a routine consistent by not having the bath, as long as it is the first step of your routine. If you have a bath, probably that's going to be about 15 minutes. So you're going to then want to have about 30 minutes of routine before actively working on falling asleep from about that 5 months. If you don't have that bath, then you're going to want 30-minute routine from around 5 months on, and keeping it around that duration gives your child plenty of time to relax and unwind before we want them to fall asleep. Try keeping as much of your routine in the where your child is sleeping, and keeping it dim. Not during the bath. You still need to see what's going on there, obviously, and that's not necessarily going to be happening where your child is sleeping. But after that, when you're getting into getting PJs on and going through those other steps, then you're going to want to keep as much of that in your child's sleep space in their room as possible, and keep it dim, because we're then cueing that sleep is coming. Put some music on if you want to, making sure the room is nice and warm so that they can really, really relax, and we're not then having to be moving about the house to be then getting before falling asleep. So as much of that routine as you can in your child's room. Play can be part of this routine. It's completely fine to have playtime. A lot of times we think that a nighttime routine's got to be all nighttimey things. Yeah, it does, but play can be part of your nighttime routine. So play, you want that playtime to be earlier in the routine, not just before getting into bed and falling asleep. We want it to be a little bit earlier in the routine, and we don't want it to be playing with the most fun, exciting things that get your child really excited, because then they're going to struggle to fall asleep. So some fairly calm toys. If your child is a little bit older and moving around, if you can find something that is going to keep your child still, that will be helpful. Because half the time, especially as we're getting into toddler years, half the battle is getting your child to physically slow down in order then to fall asleep with ease. So that if you can have some playtime which is going to be physically slowing your child down, that can be helpful. This can be really helpful as we are getting into toddlers, just having that sort of transition into the room, putting a limit onto how long we're going to be playing for, and then moving on to the next step. Going to be really helpful. So you're going to keep these steps really, really consistent for evermore as your child goes through their nighttime routine. Now, what we can find with toddlers, so you've started this routine, great routine at around 5 months, 6 months, and it's really, really consistent. And maybe then as your child is getting over a year, you find that the routine does not seem to be as relaxing as it once was. Really normal for us to see this as a developmental stage that your child is going through. Could be that they're not quite as tired as they were, and it may be that they do need to have a little tweak of your daytime routine to help you get back on track there with your nighttime. If your child is not tired enough, then they're going to struggle to fall asleep, and they're going to be not feeling that sort of weight of sleep, and they're going to push against that routine. And you may find that what was really relaxing is now no longer relaxing and feels a bit of a fight. If you feel that this is happening, especially for a child over a year, tweak one part of your routine. So that could be you're going to change the order that you do one step. So maybe swapping songs and books around. It may be that you're going to sit somewhere different for playing with the puzzles that you play with. Just a little change like that can really help get you back on track. If you've been struggling for a while and your timing's good, but you're trying to remain super consistent with this routine, and it's just your child is pushing so much against every single step, I would have a complete overhaul of your routine. Change everything up, the order you do things and where you do things. You're still trying to stay in the room, but rather than sitting on the chair, you may be getting loads of pillows on the floor, and you're going to be sitting on the floor and reading books, getting some new books in as well. So changing everything. You're still in kind of sleepy mode. Your child is going to know that they're going down to sleep, but you're just changing the order, which will be then hopefully your child will then be interested in what it is that you're doing, because it's different from what you've normally do, and then they'll be back on track with it because they're now interested with it again. And obviously that goes against everything that I say about being consistent. You're not going to be changing it up all the time. You are going to be changing it when you need to. So if you feel that you need to do this complete overhaul, changing everything, that's all okay. You'll get consistent with that, and then maybe after a month or two you'll notice that your child is beginning to push against maybe one step of that. If you get 3 consecutive nights of your child pushing against that, swap one aspect of your routine, of the routine. The order that you do things or where you do something should help you get back on track. And that may be something that you need to do now as you're getting through toddlerhood, and your child's becoming a preschooler, that may be something that you constantly need to do, is seeing if they're beginning to push, checking your timings are good, and then tweaking just a little bit can really help you get back on track without it going into full meltdown. Really help you get back on track. As we're getting to toddlers and to preschoolers, it can then be a little bit tough if you have another child that you need to do your routine with, because you can only be in one place at any one given time. And if you're trying to do a bedtime routine with more than one child and they're going down to bed at the same time, that can be really tricky, because hey, I can only be in one place at one time. And if I'm going to be doing these bedtime routines in their room, how do I do that without physically cloning myself? Well, honestly, a clone would probably be a really good idea, because just think the amount that you could get done in the house if you had a clone. That's probably not going to be possible though. So if you need to be doing the bedtime routine and it's just one parent doing a bedtime routine with multiple children, you want to look at your children's sleep personality. Who is the most adaptable here and who isn't? The kiddo who isn't the most adaptable, that's the one that you are going to want to be trying to stay in their room. So that could be your older child, that could be your younger child, that could be the middle child. But you're going to want to try and stay in their room. And then the kiddo who is a little bit more adaptable is going to, one, have a little bit of an easy time kind of hanging out, probably. And then they're going to do a little bit better with that moving from one room to another. Sometimes you just kind of got to pick your battles here, and it is never ever going to be perfect if you are trying to get more than one child down. It just isn't. But good enough is good enough. So kind of working with that, you may feel that there's a bit of, we're in with this child and now I'm taking this child into this room, and then I've got to go back and check on that child, and then I've got to go back and check. There's going to be a lot. You're going to get a lot of your steps in for the day just doing bedtime. But it's just going to make that a little bit easier. And so deciding what is your routine, where does that need to be? The kiddo who is least adaptable and struggles with all the change is going to you're going to want to be in their room, so they are remaining in their room. If you have a nighttime routines but the timings are vastly different, so you have siblings but those timings are different, then again this can be tricky. How do you get one child down at this time if we have this wonderful 30-45 minute nighttime routine? You can't leave a toddler or preschooler alone for 30-45 minutes. I don't even know what your house would look like when you came back. Let's not do that. Let's not leave preschoolers and toddlers alone for 45 minutes, because that's just not going to be that's not going to be fun. So I would you remember, an older child or a younger child can be part of an other child's routine and them not go to sleep. They can be part of it and it's completely fine. So if you're trying to get a baby down, your older child can help. They can choose some books. They can help by getting the lotion out. They can choose which pajamas the baby's going to wear. They can help as much as possible with the getting ready. It's not going to be quiet. It's probably not going to feel that relaxing. But it means that you're not having to leave your older child alone whilst you're getting the younger one ready. And then maybe you can then set your older kiddo up in their room, or if they're not that adaptable, you could do your younger one's routine in their room. So you're not just taking an older child through to their room and trying to get them to kind of hang out and stay there while you get the baby down. If you've done the younger one's routine in there, but your older child knows that they are not going to be going to sleep just yet, they may then, you've got lights on, they may hang out for a while you then work on getting the baby down to sleep. However that happens, if you're feeding, whatever that looked like, then they're not going to be left for that whole 30-45 minutes. Hopefully it will be, touch wood, it will be just sort of fairly quickly. You've got that your routine has been the same. then you can go and work on getting the baby down to sleep somewhere else, in your room, their room, wherever that is. And then your toddler is going to be remaining in their room because they're that little bit more just that they're used to that space. We're not having to just take them somewhere and just sort of like, okay, you play here. You can hopefully have got them set up with something. And then you can come back in. You can either remain in the room and play before you get started with their routine, or just get started with their or leave if you need to. You can leave and then come back and do their nighttime routine when you're ready for their bed. Nighttime routines are gonna stay in place for a really long time, and probably forevermore. We all have our own nighttime routines that we do that help us relax and unwind, and we do even have these as adults. And it's actually a great way of speeding up your falling asleep process, is having a predictable, relaxing nighttime routine. You're just going to need to tweak and change it. So for your preschooler, you're going to be changing it. You're going to be maybe adding some playtime in. You're going to be reading some different books, but still kind of that nice, calm, relaxing, playing some music, putting some meditations on, whatever that look like for your child. But just being sort of aware that we want our routine to be relaxing, but relaxing is hard for some of us to do. Especially for children, it can be really hard to do. So finding those steps that are going to help them to relax, those steps are going to look really different from what steps that you have. So don't think that candlelight whale music sounds delightful for me, probably not for your toddler or preschooler. It's not going to be relaxing, and it's not going to be as delightful for them. So figuring out what it is that is going to help them. Time it takes to fall asleep, as I mentioned earlier, it should take 10-20 minutes to fall asleep, unless you're a toddler or a preschooler. Anything up to an hour is completely normal for them to fall asleep, because they just don't stop thinking. Their brains are just wired, and they are just constantly thinking. And so this can make sleep a little bit tricky for them to fall asleep. Your routine will most certainly be helping. So keep going with it, even if you don't think that it is that helpful. Keep going with it, because it will be really helpful. I promise you it will. But time it should take to sleep doesn't mean necessarily think that your routine is not relaxing. It is, but anything up to an hour is completely normal for a toddler and preschooler. Then it will shorten back down again, definitely. So meditations are great for children who are taking this long to fall asleep. A meditation that's designed for kids that will actually help them fall asleep is well worth investing in. There's loads of them on YouTube. Obviously you don't want your child looking at anything, especially not screen, but you can have there's plenty on there's apps that you can get. Insight Timer is a great one, the Calm app as well, and loads of them. There's loads that are designed. Members of Slumber Academy, we have some meditations on there for those older kids that you can just download now. So there's plenty of places you can get meditations, and that is a great way for helping your child relax, and then it's giving them something to think about that's actually gonna help them with sleep. Well worth doing. Well, good luck with your nighttime routine, adapting it as your child gets older and making it the most effective as possible. I will see you in the next mini masterclass next week. You have a wonderful week. Take care. Bye-bye.